Hey, I think I'm on. It's Phil, and I'm back, and we're talking Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 9. We got a spoiler, recap, review, and man oh man, look at this. I had to bring out the beer for this one. This is a Brazilian brew called Caciulis. Okay, it's really good. And yeah, I need a beer for this recap, review. So cheers. Mm. To you who like to drink, I'm going to put that down there. And I thought last week was too much to handle. This week was out of this world. And by the way, let me see if I point in the right direction. I think it's this way. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, all the people that watched the other video. Oh my god, that was so cool that I got all those views. You guys are really awesome. Thanks for those that have left comments and who have appreciated what I'm trying to do here, which is just have fun. I mean, it's Star Trek on television, and it's not perfect, but it's freaking awesome at the same time. And this episode is in freaking awesome territory. So we're going to get right into it because there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about. Oh my God. And it starts out with another beautiful shot of the Starship Discovery. Man, I think I said this in an earlier video. I wasn't a huge fan of the design of the Starship Discovery, but each week they keep showing me more shots of this ship that just makes me fall in love with it. And this was just a gorgeous shot. I mean, if you watch it, of course, it expands out wider and you can see the whole ship. And I don't know, I'm really falling in love with this ship. It's a weird design, but cool design at the same time. And we got a little shuttlecraft going there into the ship, and we find out that one of my favorite characters in Star Trek Discovery is on the ship. It's Admiral Cornwell. I'm a really big fan of hers. Can't really, let me think. Why am I a fan of Admiral? She kind of has the, admirals on Star Trek have always been like up and down. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones, there's a lot of shady ones, but they seem like just these characters that are there just to kind of get in the way of what the captains and the story's trying to do. And she's one of these admirals who's almost got like a Kirk thing about her when Kirk was admiral for a little bit, in that she's ready to go gung-ho. When you need her, she's there and she's ready to put herself, her career, everything on the line to get to the bottom of things. So I really appreciate that about her character ever since season 1, but in season 2 she's been here and there a few times, and in this episode she plays a really big role and she's really cool. So I dig this character. So I'm glad we got to see a little bit more of her. And she's on the Starship Discovery kind of in secret. She doesn't want to let anybody know why she's there, and we find out why a little bit later. Definitely, she doesn't want Section 31 to know she's there because Discovery is officially a fugitive ship. It's running away, like we saw in the last episode. And she's there to get some information from Spock. She does a little bit of like she put these weird little round spheres around his head, which is kind of the futuristic version of a lie detector test. And Spock says, hey, I didn't escape I didn't leave without authorization from the medical facility because I put myself in there, so I had every right to leave, and I definitely didn't kill anybody. And the lie detector shows that he is telling the truth. Okay, this was like the Maury Povich moment of the episode. But she's got video to the contrary, showing the contrary. And it was kind of cool to see the video of him shooting some people down. So it left this mystery. Now, of course, in the back of our minds who are watching, we know Spock didn't do this, but what's up with this video? And we find out later what's up with this video. We'll get there. But the star of the episode really is Arium. And by the way, Jonathan Frakes directed this, and, let's all bow down to Jonathan Frakes. He is incredible. What a directing job he did. this episode. I mean, this episode has all the feels. The feels, people. It's there. And it starts kind of reminded me a little bit, well, it's been done in a million other movies and TV shows, but one of my favorites is Lost, right? The very, very first episode of Lost kind of zooms out from Jack's eyes, and the very, very last episode of Lost, I believe, zooms in into his eyes. Anyway, the eye thing is there, and this episode kind of does that. We'll see at the end we have more of Ariam's eyes, because that's been the focal point ever since whatever that probe was kind of got inside the Starship Discovery, got into the computer system, and infected Ariam. We find out a little bit more about her, as we can see here in the picture, which should be there. It's backwards, guys. I have to keep reminding myself that, so if I point here, which is naturally where the picture is for me, it's pointing in the wrong direction. But it's right there. We see that Ariam was just, regular old girl. She was getting married. She's on the beach. Apparently social media, Instagramming. Oh, no, these are her memories, but she's recording it. So, it's kind of somebody else watching her. So I guess she was, putting up her Instagram post, of her getting married. We're announcing her marriage. So we do get a little bit of history on her, that she's human. Now, I know that the canon warriors are going to be out there saying, hey, how can she be a cybernetic human? I thought that was outlawed, blah, 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 blah. Well, we have a few instances there in this show where we have a few cybernetic enhancements. So I don't know. I mean, if you want to have a canon fight on my page, you're free to have one. I always took it as kind of genetic engineering type of enhancements were outlawed, but I could be wrong. I am not, a canon warrior in this sense. I mean, unless it's something extremely like, wow, all of a sudden a character is using the Force. There's lightsabers that show up out of nowhere, which is just like, okay, that's just not Star Trek at all. But anyway, the story here is that she's definitely human. Definitely something happened to her. And because of that, she has all of these cybernetic enhancements. And apparently every week, because she's not, she's still human, and there's only enough space in this robot brain that she has, cortex, whatever, that she has to kind of erase, non-important files every week. And is where the episode starts is her. There's some memories that she's going to keep, and some memories that are going to be deleted. And this is one she keeps, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And she keeps a few of her and her friends, her time with her friends, Michael and, oh my God, I forgot the name. We're going to talk about this in a second, how Star Trek Discovery is not doing the best job of exploring all of its side characters. But we definitely have the black girl, man, who was in... It went down in the episode, the Eden episode. What is her name? Let's see. I'm going to find out because I'm one of these people. So let's see. Star Trek Discovery, Helm Crew, or Bridge Crew, I should say. Not Helm Crew. Bridge Crew. What would be the name of the black girl? So this is live, guys. Non-edited. See? Oh, there she is. There's a nice picture of her. You can't see it, but I can. Oladejo, her, okay, ops officer. So she has a few memories of her she wants to keep. Detmer, which is a nice character. She wants to keep the memories of her. And, of course, of Tilly. And as she's in this process of erasing and keeping memories, Tilly does walk in, okay? And they have a little bit of a conversation that's cute, like, oh, they're good friends, which is an important setup for something that happens later. And Tilly asked her, Ariam, if she can help her decipher defrag, trying to figure out what those messages were that were being sent out from the Discovery. If we recall from last week's episode, which Tyler is being accused of sending these messages from the ship to Section 31. So, what's the word? It's an encrypted file. I guess you want to decrypt it. I'm not great at all the tech lingo. But anyway, so that's what Ariam does. She goes up there to the bridge and she starts decoding the messages. Okay, and she's doing it in quick time because she's got those cybernetic enhancements. Except that we got a problem, right? More eyes. This episode here is the Eye of Ariam, okay? In this case. And yeah, so all of a sudden she sabotages the whole thing. She pretends that it's taking longer than it should for her to get this stuff done. And we know that, hey, it's whatever's controlling her mind doesn't want the truth to come out. Not yet, at least. And then we're going to pause right there as far as the Ariam story, because it's going to get serious, man. What we have here is a side story. Star Trek Discovery is incredible in how it balances so many stories at once, and it doesn't feel confusing. Some people complain that it's too much. I mean, if you compare it to older Trek, which usually just had the A and B story, the classic A, which is the main, the space anomaly, whatever, and then the B, which is usually just a lighter relationship-based story, which sometimes worked, other times didn't. Other times you're like, man, this B story sucks. Can we just focus on the main action? Star Trek Discovery has an A, B, C, D, E, F, G story going on at the same time, but it manages to balance it out pretty well. And like with last week with the Colbert and Stamets storyline, I didn't like it that much. Some of you did, which is fine. But what's cool about having this many threads going at once is that we only get to spend, 2 minutes on a storyline that maybe is not that interesting. And the bulk of the show will be the main story, maybe 50% with maybe another 20% here, 10% here, 10% here, blah, blah, blah. It works in that sense. I like it. So this little side story, at first I wasn't digging it, guys. One, because it's no secret, I'm not a huge Michael Burnham fan. I'm not a Michael Burnham hater. I don't think she's the worst character in, Star Trek history. But for me, she's not the most sympathetic character. It's not somebody that I'm rooting for, that I can't wait to see what happens next week with Michael Burnham. Different than, Saru or Pike. Amazingly, Ash Tyler this season. I was not a big fan of Ash Tyler, and they've written him pretty well. Stamets every once in a while. I want to see more of Jet Reno. What happened to that girl, man? I liked her. Giorgio, there's a bunch of other characters I put before Michael Burnham as far as what's going on with her. But she has her moment with Spock, because he's on the Discovery. They're there trying to figure out what the heck this Red Angel is. And this little graphic of the Red Angel doesn't look as feminine as the ones before, although I think pretty much we've decided as a fan base that the Red Angel is a female, which is why the theories are abounding that Michael is the Red Angel, which I think would suck. I'm sorry. I mean, she's already the center of everything. And then to make her the Red Angel, I don't know. I kind of like the theory of the Red Angel being the Discovery ship. If anybody watched the Star Trek short Calypso, I recommend it. And it's set 1,000 years into the future. I think it's 1,000, right? And the Starship Discovery's been abandoned. And a guy comes onto the ship who's running away from some type of a conflict. And him and the AI kind of have a pseudo love affair for a little bit, while he's recovering. And the Discovery AI has evolved. It's improved itself. And at the end of that episode, it even kind of makes a holographic body for itself. So what's to say it wasn't able to make an actual body for itself and implant memories? And by the way, props to Trek Yards. The guy from Trek Yards is the one that thought about this idea of, why couldn't it create a body? I mean, we can do this now. If anybody's read the news, I think they're trying to bring a woolly mammoth back to life. So, we got Dolly the sheep. We have the ability today to make a physical body. Obviously not a human, although who knows. So what's to say in 200, 300, certainly more than 1,000 years in the future, we can't figure out how to just make a body, kind of like how the Borg do. So it's not impossible, that the Red Angel could be the Discovery ship, AI, out in the future, seeing what happens, the end of all sentient life, goes back and tries to change that. Who knows? I like that theory more than it's just Michael. We shall see. Although this episode, there's hints that it could be both. Okay, it definitely hints at both. But anyway, the actual meat of this meeting between the two of them is to talk about their relationship. And at first I was like, oh, not again. But they did a really good job at the interplay between the both. And they did something that I was actually talking about earlier this week in one of the Star Trek groups, because somebody wrote, this post about, oh, I know why people don't like Michael Burnham. It's because she's one of the first characters in Star Trek with no sex appeal. Take the racism aside, take that. And I'm like, come on, man. I mean, okay, I'm not saying that there aren't people that aren't on that base mentality, but it's very few. The reason most of us don't like Michael Burnham is that she comes off as a know-it-all. She's the best of everything. She's unsympathetic. There's nothing that we can say, she loves this, and I pointed in that thread, I posted a picture of Catherine Janeway. She disagrees. She was definitely not made to be a sex symbol, although she is an attractive woman like Shaniqua. I hope I'm getting her name right. I always get it wrong. Miss Green. Okay, let's put it that way. Much in the way that she is. And, excuse me, guys. I just want to make sure I get her name right. Yeah, Soniqua. I knew I was saying it because I said it in the last video and I said Shaniqua. And I kept thinking, this is wrong. There's something missing. In this case, there's something added, which was an H. Okay, so it's Soniqua. She's a beautiful young woman. So just like, Catherine Janeway is an attractive looking character, but definitely not sex appeal. That's, 7 of 9. But we get Janeway's emotional attachment. It's to her crew. It's to the ship. It's to Federation guidelines. It's to coffee. Yeah, she really loves that coffee. What is Michael's anchor? What can we say? Okay, maybe we don't like Michael's character. She's tries to be too logical all the time, tries to be too cold all the time. But what's her anchor? This scene gave us a little bit of that, which was awesome because Spock confronts her. She says a way to get your logic going again is let's play a game of chess. It's the game that represents logic. And Spock's not beat. He's not playing right, and she gets a little bit angry. And I don't know if you can tell in this picture over here to my side, he breaks the board and he shows a lot of anger. This is a Spock that's still struggling with his human versus his Vulcan side, and he's showing a lot of emotion. And he dresses her down, man. And I loved it because she doesn't get a dress down very often. Saru is one other character that is able to look through her, so I love the episodes they have together. Those are the few episodes where I'm like, wow, I can dig Michael. This is one too that I said, wow, I dug Michael's character because he dressed her down and he broke her down. And he explained to her, first, you're not Vulcan, you're human. Quit the act. Okay? And you're not using logic and, the Vulcan way of suppressing emotion in the scientific way that we do. We suppress emotion and work with logic because we feel that that's the path to enlightenment. That's the path to get to the answers that we need. You're doing it because you got a lot of issues you don't feel like dealing with and you don't know how to deal with. Going way back to the death of your parents where you couldn't do shit. And they do say shit in this episode, so I'm going to allow myself to use the S word. As you all know, I'm trying not to curse as much in these Star Trek Discovery ones because I do have a potty mouth. And yeah, he says to her very clearly, you got a lot of grief, you got a lot of guilt, you got a lot of shit that you got to deal with, and you're using the Vulcan way to suppress that. And you know what? I was like, finally, I can relate to this girl because I've been there. I've been that person. As a younger person, I wish I had some music here. This would be the violin music time. A little bit about myself. But when I was young, when I was, maybe through my teenage years, 16, 17, all the way up to maybe 24, 25 years of age, I was like that. I was somebody that just didn't want to deal with a lot of emotions inside of me, just based on things that happened in my life. And I love Star Trek already from that age, and Spock was my favorite character. Why? Because he was the logical one. And this was the episode that made me go, oh, he's talking to me, because I know where Michael is on her journey of discovery. So she showed her emotions. She showed her humanity. And in that same thread that was posted in that Star Trek group, I made an allusion, or a comparison, maybe is a better word, to Dr. Bashir. Because Dr. Bashir was also a very unsympathetic character for about half of Star Trek Deep Space Nine's run. And then eventually he got humbled. And eventually he got to see what war was really like. He wasn't just this cush job doctor who knew everything, who could, who was just like super doctor. He realized, no, he can fail. He can get things wrong. And man, I fell in love with Dr. Bashir. I'm like, wow, how his character arc is incredible in how much I went from hate this character, he's cold, arrogant, thinks he knows it all, to I love this character, warm, still arrogant in some ways, but he had such a beautiful character arc. He was a secondary character, though, so we didn't have to deal with him all the time, which made it a little easier to swallow. I also think he's a little better actor than Sonequa, although, she's not horrible. So if that's where Discovery wants to go, it's a journey I'm willing to take with it, because I do think the title Discovery is not obviously just a ship. It's about the discovery of its main character, which is Sonequa rediscovering her humanity. I think that's one of the themes and the threads that I've noticed, at least since season 1. Rediscovering her place inside Starfleet, and definitely rediscovering herself as a human being. They need to add, I think they just need to add little touches more often to let us know that that's the direction that they're going. Otherwise, she just comes off as just, not her again, figuring out the problem again. She doesn't disobey Pike's orders now, but pretty much when Pike says something, she one-ups, and Pike's like, yeah, good idea, again. Or Saru, doing the same thing with Saru, again. So, it's a tough character in that sense. It's not one that I think a lot of fans are sympathetic to, which is tough given that she's your lead. But this scene was beautiful. It broke her down, and it made me enjoy her for the rest of the episode because you could tell that that stuck with her. You know, the fact that Spock gave her this dressing down. So we spent a little bit of time talking about that, but I thought that was really cool. Really important for her character growth. I hope they build on it and don't just, make it pass. Now, here's the main storyline, the A plot, as we like to call it, right? It's that, Cornwell is on station and she has a mission. Her mission is, man, I'm going to take another gulp of this. Cheers to everyone. She says, guys, the control computer over at Section 31 and all that stuff, it's the one where we all, everything that's happening in the universe, in the Star Trek universe, in the Alpha Quadrant, goes through there. All of us admirals have a chance to look at the data and then assess it and make decisions based on it, but the admirals have been locked out. Section 31's kind of taking this just for itself. One of the admirals was actually the one that did it. She's one of those logic extremists, again, which I wasn't really buying this logic extremist storyline, but whatever. She brings them back up. So she says, we got to go in there to the Section 31 headquarters, get into the control room, bust up this computer, give us access to what is going on, because Section 31 is becoming rogue. Very quickly becoming rogue. And so that's what they do. They fly right into the belly of the beast. When they get there, they find out that there's some space mines, which is against Starfleet regulation. And this was a great scene with Pike. And man, Pike, man. Oh, I wish he could stay one more season. Because he's great. And this was a Pike episode as far as he was really in charge. I mean, he didn't have Burnham in his year kind of giving him a better option. No, he was really in command of this starship, and he stands up to her and says, man, this goes totally against Starfleet, the moral code of Starfleet, I guess we'll call it. And Cornwell gives a great speech where she says, look, we were in the middle of a war. We did some things maybe we shouldn't have. And the reason that the Enterprise was not involved in this war, we had you out there doing whatever the hell you were doing, is because in case we lost to the Klingons, we wanted the best of us to survive. And that shut them up. And it was such a great little monologue that she gave. Well, not a monologue, few lines of dialogue. And everybody's reaction shot was great when they heard that. And he was just like, okay, thank you. So great scene. But the thing is, they got to get past these mines to go into the starbase there. And as you can see, Cornwell, she has information on Section 31. So she knows the right path that you got to take to get past these mines. And the scenes that follow are incredible on the special effects side. I mean, if you're not enjoying Star Trek Discovery for its storylines, at the very least you got to be enjoying it, because I mean, we got a bunch of people that hate this show and watch it every week. At the very least, maybe they're enjoying the special effects because they're incredible. Them going through this minefield was so cool, man. And it ends up, that they gotta put their shields down. It's these mines that cut through the hull, and then there's these other mines that come after, so they got to put the shields back up again. And we start to discover through this little trip that it seems like these mines know where the ship is going, because the ship is doing evasive maneuvers, but it seems like the mines are anticipating where the ship is going. So we'll get to why that's happening in a second. But before we do that, look up here, look up top, okay? And if you're not looking and just listening, we got a picture there of Non and Arium. And Non, in case you don't remember, was this officer that came onto the Discovery with Pike back in the first episode. We haven't seen a lot of her. Okay, she's from the Barzan race, which I kind of didn't understand when Arium asked her or kind of asserted where she was from. It sounded like it was a place from Star Wars, which is Barazan. Okay, so if you don't know where that is, try to find out where that is. Okay, it can go on the Wikipedia and find out where that was. I had to listen to it a couple times before I kind of figured out exactly where she was from. And she questions her about, these little augmentations and finds out that she needs them in order to breathe oxygen. And she's kind of cold, because I think Tilly had sent her down there to ask her to come back up to the bridge to help with some things. So this is an important scene because it makes naan, which, by the way, naan is delicious. And I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about, eating non-Indian food. And, naan is like, man, she's kind of cold. Like, what's going on? So she starts feeling something's off about Arium. And it ends up that something is very off about Arium. We know something's off. But when she's back up on the bridge, as they're going through these mines, Arium is the one that is directing the information to the mines of where the Discovery is going. And she's also downloading information onto the computer, which she wants to send over to Section 31. And as we can see there to my left, Nan, when she's up on the ship, is just like, what is she up to? She's not sure. She can't walk over to the station, I guess. I guess that's against decorum. But she's looking and trying to see what's going on. And, of course, they do eventually get through the minefield and watch that. I mean, I'm not going to give you screenshots of all that. I mean, you just got to watch it. But then they do get there, and the Section 31 headquarters is pretty damn ugly. Reminded me of a spark plug. That's an upside-down spark plug. But, it is what it is. It's there. And they get there, and finally, because they had tried to hail the place, they get a hail back. And who is it? It's our logic extremist, Admiral Pitar. And she gives a real cold welcome and says that it was actually Starfleet that told us that we should attack you. And a Section 31 ship is coming to get you guys, so just stay where you are and don't cause no trouble. And then Pitar out. Thing with this is that, the Admiral says, we got to get inside that starbase, so that's what we're going to do. Only thing that I thought was a little weird or, kind of weak was that, okay, they decide to beam over, but there's no, security in this starbase. I don't know how that works with starbases, if they have shields that they can put up. They just kind of beamed over very easily and just walked around, this one section of the starbase that was where all the computer stuff was. But, they beam over. We have Nan. We have Michael Burnham. Because, at first it was supposed to be Saru, but Saru noticed something in his conversation with Pitar. So he stays on the bridge. And Arium, she kind of talks her way into going over with them because she says she could help kind of configure the computers faster in case there's some lockout sequences, etc., etc. But we find out that she's got ulterior motives. And just so nobody complains that I didn't bring it up, we do have a Stamets Spock moment. Okay, eye roll. But it was, short and sweet. And it was just kind of Stamets asking him, did you guys figure out, when you and Michael went out to play chess? Uh, he didn't know they were going to play chess, but, when you guys were trying to figure out a way to get your logic back, did it work? And he says, no, blah, 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 blah. And Stamets is like, yo, I know your relationship with this girl ain't the hottest, but she loves you. She risked her life to go save you, and which makes Spock at least stop for a minute. Stop for a minute, baby. Don't you know you're mine? One of those things. And he considers that, that may be true. And then he gives Stamets a little bit of advice where he says, hey, I saw Culber leaving your shared living quarters, and I know he needs space, but maybe it's not because he's not in love with you anymore, or he doesn't know, where he stands with you, but maybe he doesn't know where he stands with himself. So, okay, yeah, all right. We all knew that, but it was kind of cute. Back to the cool stuff. The cool stuff is, look at that. What the? Okay. Is what they find when they beam over. They find this section of the ship where everybody's dead. Everything's kind of frozen. This scene was so cool where they look up. By the way, camera work this episode was much greater. Also, less of the lens flare. Last week was lens flare heavy. I know lens flare is just like it's the style for sci-fi because it looks sci-fi-ish and futuristic with all the beeps and lights. But last week, man, I mean, you had a lens flare that was like covering. Imagine there's a lens flare. So, it's like, come on. It was all over people's faces. Let me see if I can make a lens flare with a lighter. Yeah. So, guys, what do you think is the best option for, us? Should we beam over or not? I don't know. It sucked last week, the lens flare. This week, less lens flare. Thank you. It's still there. It's cute. And less of the wacky camera work, which I talked about last week, which I think is just too much, and you have two people talking, and they got to do a full 360 just to look cool, like, so guys, well, let me not go down too far. I may or may not be wearing pants, guys. And this episode had a few cool ones that weren't too much. Like when Cornwell came into the ship, it kind of did like a upside down camera thing, but it went right behind and showed her as she's walking out. That was cool. Nice touch. Jonathan Frakes, he knows how to do that thing, where it's a cool camera thing, but it's not over the top. And these bodies, it ends up, they are the people that used to occupy the starbase. And you get this what the moment because Nan goes out to try to get the gravity and everything. The what do they call that in Trek? The artificial environment. I forgot the word that they use for that now. But she gets it all going. The bodies fall to the ground. Maybe should have thought about that beforehand. And we find out that one of the bodies is Admiral Patar. And Michael gives one of the best lines of the episode. Captain, we have a problem. Kind of like, Houston, we have a problem. How can that be? And that's why Saru stayed back in the away mission. Because as Patar was talking, he had this look on his face like, something's off. I mean, Vulcans are cold, but she's being like extra cold. And literally extra cold. It's a fake, people. It's a hologram. He finds out. Because he says, when people have a tense moment, their body temperature goes up. They give off heat, and we kind of confronted her, and she was cold the whole time. Why? Because she was a hologram. And then he takes that same logic and goes over and shows the video of Spock killing a bunch of MFers, and guess what? A hologram. So it seems that Section 31, which we already knew, but it's cool to have like a confirmation plus a how. And I think they did a great how for this episode. Section 31's been behind it all the time. Spock didn't kill these people. It was a hologram. They framed him. And so, in this same instance, Tilly Who, by the way, this will be the Tilly moment. This is going to be a long video, guys, because this episode was cool. Very, very cool. So this is going to be our moment with Tilly, who I really, really loved first season. I thought it was so cool to have a character that seemed like she wasn't sure about herself, had a little bit of like the Barclay syndrome, maybe, you know, socially uh, inept, I guess would be the word. Socially awkward, that's a better word. Maybe a little bit of OCD, whatever. And she, or Asperger's, who knows. Anyway, what's the word I'm looking for? It's neither one of those. Autism, yes, the autism scale, you know, so she may be somewhere there on the autism scale. And so cool, I thought it was cool. And also the fact that, you know, she's not like your size 0, you know, female officer, I thought was cool. Even how they did the makeup, sometimes you can see she's got some pimples. Just a regular kid in a Starfleet uniform. Very cool. But this year, I wasn't feeling her too much. I thought they went too far into that. Where, all right, we get it, Tilly. You're a little socially awkward. You get a little bit hyped up every once in a while about some things. But you're still on a starship. So you do need to, like Barclay would do. Like he had his moments where he was just like, oh, you know. Like, I'm nerding out on Starship Enterprise. But when he had to talk to Captain Picard, when he had to talk to high-ranking officers, he would find within himself that more serious, composed, even though he was kind of shaking. But, yeah, Captain, I believe that these signals mean that, you know, he would somehow get it down. Tilly doesn't have that, which... yeah, I think they gotta bring that into her character a little bit more, because otherwise she comes off a little annoying. So that's been my feeling for Tilly this season. But this episode, it felt like they did that again. Jonathan Frakes, woo, woo, woo. You know, he seems to have known where to go with this character, directing wise, telling her, don't be over the top. Be you, but you can't be over the top. You have to be a Starfleet officer at the same time. You're an officer training, for goodness sake. So get yourself together, okay? So good for Tilly. She did some cool things this episode. She felt like, yes, the bubbly girl, but also Starfleet officer, bubbly girl. So good job. She finds out right after they discover that it's a hologram, and they're like, you know, why would they want to do this? Or I guess maybe Section 31 called us over here. They made us go over here. What do they want from us? And then she's like, maybe it's not what they want from us, but what they want from Arium. And then she sees that Arium had deleted most of her memory in order to make space for more stuff to go into her mind. And it's right then that they're like, uh-oh, Arium has been compromised. And man, oh man, again, I mean, if you're not digging Star Trek Discovery because it's not canon enough, and it's not like the Star Trek I watched 20 mother effing years ago, right? You gotta at least enjoy it for the action, you know, because this was so... it was hammy, definitely hammy, over the top, but classic, you know, robot going crazy now mode. I loved it, and Arium went Terminator mode on these, on Michael and Nam, and she was ruthless, man. Talk about it. She went straight for the jugular in Nan, and she ripped out her little breathing device, and you can see there Nam. I thought, well, spoilers for my own video, but if you watch the show, you know Nan survives. But I thought that Nan was done. You know, they filmed that very well. Wait, is this the third time? The third time deserves a gulp. For Jonathan Frakes, yes. he did a really good job. He fooled me. I thought Nan was done. I thought, okay, she was wearing red, you know. And Discovery hasn't really dug into some of its secondary characters, and some of them have died or just gone off into the sunset. So why not again with Nan? He had me. He had me with that. And as soon as Arium throws Nan across the floor after, removing her capacity to breathe, her and Michael have a really cool fight, and Nan just kicks her butt, literally kicks her butt. Right there, you get a little scene there. You see Michael, flying across that little space there. But that was because of a Arium kick. That was really hardcore. And I guess because she's got the suit on, she can handle some of those punishing blows. But it was a cool fight. And Arium really freaked the hell out of me. She was intense. Robot killer. And eventually she gets Michael by the throat, and Michael's like, and she does the old, from Kirk. Maybe Kirk learned that from Michael, because Michael is the center of everything. And and she's able to punch and kick Arium long enough to get Arium into this other room, and then she shuts the door. And in all of this is going on back on the ship, they're trying to figure out, how do we shut her down? How do we stop her? Tilly has this idea of like, let me try to talk her down. And she does. She kind of talks her down. And Arium at this moment kind of snaps back into like her actual self. And she tells Michael, look, because she's figuring out how to manually open the door. She's like, you gotta send me out into space. Open the what do you call it? The air dock? Is that what it's called? And suck me out into space, because as soon as I open this door, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna go there, finish what I was doing, and then I'm gonna turn around and kill everybody on Discovery. I'm just gonna destroy the ship. And Michael doesn't want to do it. Michael's like, I can't suck you out into space. So she goes over to the other door that had the computer inside. Our friend Arium is in the door right behind Michael there in this picture, and she's trying to shoot it down, trying to open it. Meanwhile, everybody's on the ship is like, no, man, you gotta open that airlock. Open the airlock. That's the word. The air dock. No, the airlock. Open the airlock. Suck her out into space. There's no way. And of course, Michael doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to do it until, we get to a real intense moment there where Tilly shows Arium memories of her and Tilly together. That's how she was able to talk her down, because that was the one bit of memory that Arium didn't erase. And the real Arium comes out, and she explains. She's like, Michael, the really bad things are going to happen. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do all these terrible things to everybody in the sucker. Suck me out into space. And she says, you need to find Project Daedalus. Okay, Daedalus. And you're like, what is Project Daedalus? We'll get into that in a second. But just as she says this, she is sucked out into space. And we'll get back to that in a second. But let's get into this, man. In Greek mythology, I just taught this last year in my high school class. Terrible with these pronunciations, though. I'm not a great at the pronunciations. But Daedalus was a skillful craftsman and artist. Short version is this. He built the labyrinth where the Minotaur is kept, over for the king of Crete. So if anybody's ever read that story of the Minotaur and the labyrinth, he's the one that built it. But also he's probably most famously known as Icarus's son. And there on the right you get a little picture of Icarus, and everybody knows the story of Icarus, right? They're trying to fly away, and the father's like, don't fly too close to the sun, because they had put wax there to make the wings, and if you're too high up, it's going to melt your wings. So don't fly too high. Also, he said don't fly too low. But Icarus is just going up, 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 and then his wings melt and he falls down to the ground. So that's that story, which made me think, okay, it's not the first time this season that they've made references to Greek mythology. Building a labyrinth, flying too close to the sun, foreshadowing to somebody or something messing with time, messing with space, messing with things that they shouldn't be messing with, trying to get too close to something that maybe they shouldn't be getting too close to, and it all falling apart in their face. Who could that person be? Is it Michael Burnham? I don't know. I have a theory it could be Giorgio. Okay, some people think that the Red Angel is Giorgio because remember a few episodes ago when Giorgio and Michael were together, Giorgio made some weird references about, I know more about you than you know. It could have been that she knew that, Section 31 was responsible for the death of her parents, but I don't know. Giorgio, man, she's trying to take over Section 31. She's kind of been looking out for Michael this whole season, instead of just really angry that, she took her out of the Terran universe. Could she have been trying to figure some way to get back to the Terran universe? Is that a possibility? I don't know. But I did see the theory that Giorgio, is the Red Angel. And I kind of could fly with it. Let's see if we can see anything about it right now. I can never spell her name. Giorgio, Star Trek Discovery. I can't spell her name. I can barely spell my own name. So who is the Red Angel? Is this just explaining? Well, it's not Spock. Some say that it's Michael Burnham, and I really hope it isn't. I mean, unless they can figure out a really, 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 really good way to tie it into it being Michael Burnham. And right there during this talk, she says, find Project Daedalus, and then she says something to Michael to the effect of, it's all because of you. So that kind of gives you a thought that maybe it is actually Michael Burnham. Let's see if I'm pronouncing this right. I don't know.
Daedalus.
Daedalus. Okay, Daedalus. So you do get a sense that maybe could it be Michael Burnham because it's all because of you. So here I'm on Games Radar, and they have like a theory about everybody that could possibly be the Red Angel. We know that Giorgio is bizarrely invested in Michael, even though she's not the Michael Burnham that was treated like Giorgio's daughter in the Mirror Universe. Section 31 has its fair share of dubious techniques for getting information, and you can bet that if they got their hands on time travel technology, they'd want to use it to keep the universe safe. That could lead to a catastrophe that gets Michael killed, and Giorgio, being the maverick that she is, might steal the technology to go back in time and make sure that everything is in place to ensure Michael stays alive. Guiding Michael to the important places in the universe that need saving, she reconnects her with Spock, ensures Saru can defend her with his threat ganglia gone, saves those humans on Terra Elysium, and awakens Jacob to the truth. All these things might have an important role to play in the future. Perhaps Jacob develops technology to help Discovery. In Spock's heart-to-heart with Michael helps them trust each other at a critical point in the story. Giorgio could be doing all this so she can make sure that there's a chance of saving Michael. Okay, and it confirms that Giorgio really does have a heart. Some people think it's Tilly, but I'm not even going to go into that. But anyway, I just brought that up because, we got the whole Daedalus. That's the title of the episode, by the way, Project Daedalus. And we do have somebody that's a craftsman. Okay, somebody that's trying to help somebody else achieve something, but that somebody else doesn't get all the way there. But we also have Project Daedalus, which was something that was started in 73. It went all the way to 78 by the British Interplanetary Society. And it was a design, their main mission was to design a plausible unmanned interstellar spacecraft intended mainly as a scientific probe. The design criteria specified that the spacecraft had to use existing or near future technology and had to be able to reach its destination within a human lifetime. And what was the destination? The Barnard star, 5.9 light years away. The trip was estimated to take 50 years, but the design was required to be flexible enough that it could be sent to any other target star. So this was all conceptual, okay? And at least from what I could gather, they were never actually able to send this probe out. So could it be a reference to this in Star Trek Discovery, which would be really cool because I had actually never even heard of this before this night's episode. I just went searching what is Project Daedalus. I was like, what the hell is that? And I found this article, and it's actually called Project Daedalus if you go on Wikipedia. And I'm in the middle of Wikipedia. And could it be that, how wild would that be? Kind of like they did with Voyager in Star Trek The Motion Picture, where they took the actual Voyager and, put it into the story. Wouldn't that be wild if somehow they wrote it so that they eventually, at some point in history, past us, obviously, past where we are now, they did actually send out, humanity did send out this probe, and somehow, I don't know, it became sentient, or maybe it got sucked into some time warp, it went into the future, because we're being attacked by probes. So it's quite possible. So who knows? What do you guys think Project Daedalus is? And oh my god, we're going over the hour mark on this video, but this episode was too damn good. I'm having a good time. Okay, so I hope somebody watches this and has as much of a good time as I do. And if you watch it and have a really good time like I'm having right now, share the video with other people, and we can all have a good time together. And comment below even if you hate the video, if you think shut the F up, you're talking too much, write it down there. I don't mind. I can handle it, guys. I'm a big boy. But as Ariam is saying that, she says two things. One, that hey, go after this project. Two, it's all because of you, Michael. And she doesn't say anything else beyond that. Oh, wait, before I go, see, anticipation. I'm building up. One more thing that's kind of interesting as far as theories goes. When they asked Tilly what was she downloading, she says, remember that big ass sphere we ran into that had information, like what is it, 100,000 years of information collected throughout the galaxy? It was that information that was being sent to Section 31. So what type of information is in there? And there was a specific reason why they wanted an AI, because they kind of wanted, barely it was the evolution of AI. I may have to watch that part again. Forgive me. I just finished watching the episode to get exactly what they were getting at. But it seemed like the AI wanted to evolve to get to the point where it could just do whatever the hell it wanted within the Discovery time period, which goes back to that first theory that, hey, if not the Red Angel, then the probe, something involving Calypso, the episode Calypso, is going to play a big part in this season. and they wouldn't just have a 15-minute episode about the discovery 1,000 years in the future for no reason. I mean, we already saw the connection with the Saru episode, which, okay, I admit I have not seen yet. I was not a big fan of the Star Trek shorts, although Calypso was alright, so I didn't get to the third one. But people say that that episode connects to the episode we had where they went to Saru's planet. Anyway, I have built it up enough. This was the end game of this episode, and what an end game. Arium gets sucked out into space, guys. Sucked out into space. And Michael couldn't do it. And who did it? None. She survived. And again, I mean, as soon as it opened, I was like, she survived, not survived. And I was glad because I liked her in this episode. I thought this was such a cool character. And I hope we see more of her. Please, writers of Star Trek Discovery, show us your your other characters, secondary characters. I mean, we love Pike, we love Saru, Michael, but we want more secondary characters, okay? And her death scene, it was so poignant. Interestingly enough, here, I'm going to start a little war because I like doing stuff like that. I watched, like I had mentioned a few episodes ago, I watched my very first episode of The Orville a couple weeks back where they had a big two-parter. And I watched part 2. And, and I thought it was an okay show. I got nothing against The Orville. I thought it was okay, just that episode. I don't know if I have or do I? Did I watch the one after? I'm not sure. Anyway, I thought it was okay. And they did have a death scene that was very similar. And it's funny because a lot of people that watch both, they say that sometimes the two shows kind of intersect. And it was funny that, in the Orville, they had the AI go kind of crazy. And in this episode, they had the AI go kind of crazy. Except that I thought the payoff here was a little bit better where it was like, no, the AI dies. Although, she's not technically an AI. Cybernetic enhanced human. But, visually, we're working kind of with the same thing. And in that episode, the second part of that episode, we had somebody get sucked out into space and die and get all frozen, which I thought was well done. But this is next level. The way Discovery did it, I thought was just next level. So poignant, so beautiful. Because as she's out there and starting to freeze over, you know what? Jonathan Frakes. Yeah, he did it. He closed it out with her eyes and seeing her memory inside of her eyes. And I think this is the first episode of Star Trek Discovery that made me boom, 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 boom. It hit the heart muscle because it was just gorgeous. It was a very well done scene. That being said, okay, because I've been positive all the way through this video, except for, I kind of brushed over that Spock and what's his name, Stamets moment. But I'm going to give a little bit of constructive criticism. This is my negative side of Star Trek Discovery. This was such a well-done episode. Her death scene was so poignant. But wouldn't it have been about 1,000 times stronger had we had actual moments with her before? Not just seeing her memories of her sitting at the mess hall, but actually let's have that scene. Let's see that scene of her in the mess hall. Not just seeing her memory of when she was alive and had this, fiance, but actually showing how that happened in her life. So Star Trek Discovery, that's something that sucks about your show. That's something you need to work on, and I hope this season's been a little bit better. But it's been so forced. It's like, okay, this is the episode where you finally get to see and that's why I can't remember their names because they're barely there. And I don't think I have that screen open anymore that had the that had all the characters from Star Trek Discovery, Ojiwalu or whatever her name is. Um, let's actually get to meet her. Let's actually see what she's about. Let's have an episode where we see full cast and crew here. I'm on the IMDb page, and even on IMDb you can't see these people. Where is she? I don't know. She's there somewhere. But oh, there she is. Joan Owasekun. Okay? I mean, here it has her in 19 episodes, but she's had one episode where I actually cared anything about her. Um, what's her name? Detmer was cool this episode, but again, give us a little bit more background. She gave a yay for cybernetics, but I'm sure she wasn't so happy that that happened to her to begin with, and her relationship with Michael based on that. I mean, they kind of touched on it when Michael showed up on the Discovery. She kind of gave her the evil eye, like, oh, this bitch. So yeah, Star Trek Discovery, man, you have some great secondary characters. As you've shown, you gave us little sprinkles of it. Figure out a way, guys. I know Burnham is supposed to be the center of this show, but hey, Captain Picard was the center of TNG. Cisco was the center of DS9. Janeway was the center of Voyager. But in all those shows, in TOS and Enterprise, of course, in all those shows, we were able to have moments with the other characters where we really got to learn about them, see what makes them tick, see what makes this crew a family. They don't feel like a family. It feels like, hey, if one of the characters goes, I mean, am I going to miss, what's her name? Oh, I feel so bad. Such disrespect to Oyin Oladejo. I forgive me, Oyin, if you feel disrespected. But are we going to miss Owasekun if she's gone? We haven't spent that much time with her. Are we going to miss Detmer if she's gone? I mean, she's right up front all the time, so obviously, I mean, visually, it'll be something that's missing, but you can put anybody else in her place, and it will change nothing in the story. And Ariam, as beautiful as this episode was, as great as she was written out of the show, what difference is it going to make in the big picture as far as her there, her not there? Obviously, they're going to probably have some reaction to her death in the next episode or something. But that's something Discovery needs to improve. It can't be the Burnham story all the time and then just give us some Pike and give us a Saru and that's it. Maybe a Stamets and Tilly on the side. Because it's a big crew. You got to show us a little bit more of the other characters, and it would have given the impact of this. And going back to the Orville, I haven't watched a season and a half of the Orville, but I have friends who are fans of the show, and for them that was a big shock. Why? Because Isaac was a part of that crew. They expanded on his character. They showed so much of his character that when that happened, I didn't watch anything coming up before. So for me, it was just kind of like, okay, he went a little wacky. But even so, it was a little shocking, even because they set it up from the beginning of the episode of him with the kids and stuff like that. But I can only imagine if I had followed this show for a year and a half, if that happened, I would be like, oh my God. And imagine if he had actually died or he had actually gone 100% to the dark side. I think that things like that make a difference. So Star Trek Discovery needs to work a little bit better on that. Guys, it's 3:23. I've spoken for over an hour. This is the longest, I think. No, maybe that crappy Klingon episode. I went pretty long on that. So I'm glad to be able to say that I can make a long video when I'm in love with an episode as much as when because it's so much easier to talk shit on an episode, right? We can go on forever when we don't like things, and when we like them, we seem to make our words a little bit shorter, right? Because it's like we're preaching to the choir sometimes. But yeah, I just went on and on and on because it was just that good of an episode. But it's late. It's 3:24 in the morning. Every week I say I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this because it takes me about 2 to 3 hours to get these videos together. But I did it. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Of course, live long and prosper. Treat your fellow human beings and whatever sentient beings kindly. And that's it. Until next week, where I think we might be going to wherever this Project Daedalus is, from what I saw from the trailer. It looked like Michael Burnham was being strapped onto something. So I don't know, man. I hope they don't bust her out into like time and do all this weird stuff with Michael. But who knows? If they can write it well, okay, I'll forgive them. But it's like Spock said to her in that confrontation. He's like, you try to make yourself the center of everything. It was cool. He was like the audience. And it's funny because remember that if you watch the other video I made where I took a screenshot of Spock's face, kind of like, I think it was last episode actually. It was like, like, shut up, bitch, you think you're not that smart, you're not all that, he gave her kind of one of those looks. And this time he just dressed her down. And it was kind of like how I feel the audience feels about her sometimes, which for me is a good sign. Because I think it means that the writers know this and they're going somewhere with her character. It's just I think they need to leave a few more little breadcrumbs so that the casual viewer, or maybe the viewer that isn't getting that, has some hope that, hey, the whole point of Michael Burnham's character is that she's supposed to be very unlikable, to eventually you're going to be like, oh my God, it's Burnham. She's so cool. And, all that stuff. But, I promised I would shut up and I haven't. So here I am actually shutting up. Until next time, check out my other videos. We got The Walking Dead. And now we got some Doctor Who. And channel's growing. Thank you all. Goodbye.